A luxury car can feel expensive before it moves. Sometimes the first proof is the sound the door makes. You have heard that sound 1,000 times, the deep, satisfying luxury car thunk. But that sound is not just closing metal. It is one of the most carefully shaped signals in the car. And once you notice it, the real question is uncomfortable. Are you hearing build quality or hearing your brain being guided toward it? And if it is that intentional, why can't every car just copy it? Most people assume luxury doors sound better because they are heavier. That is the myth line. Weight helps, but weight alone does not create that clean, dense, expensive-sounding close. If it did, every heavy door would sound premium. It does not. The clue is in what you do not hear. Cheaper doors often produce several sounds at once: latch snap, panel echo, seal rub, loose vibration, cabin rattle. A luxury door collapses those into one short, controlled acoustic hit. Not louder, not softer, cleaner. And that matters because your brain treats sound like a shortcut. Before you inspect materials, panel gaps, or structural rigidity, you hear the close and make a judgment. But that creates a new problem for car makers. Once buyers start reading door sound as quality, that sound becomes part of the product itself. A bad door close can make an entire car feel cheaper in 1 second. Think of it like a premium phone camera shutter. You are not just hearing function. You are hearing a designed confirmation that the product did something with precision. That is the mechanism line. Luxury car doors sound expensive because manufacturers tune the entire closure system to suppress stray vibrations and compress the close into one dense, controlled sound your brain reads as quality. That tuning comes from the full system: latch design, body stiffness, insulation, glass mounting, rubber seals, damping materials, and even the way cabin air compresses and escapes when the door shuts. In premium cars, NVH, noise, vibration, and harshness, does not only shape road noise, it shapes this moment too. And here is the trade-off. The obvious fix sounds easy: make the door heavier, add more insulation, and chase the same deep thunk. But that gets expensive fast. More damping adds cost, more structure adds mass. Stronger seals can make doors harder to close. Overdo it, and the door starts feeling clumsy or unnaturally dead. That is the trade-off line. The best luxury door sound is not about maximum heaviness. It is about balancing acoustics, weight, seal pressure, comfort, and cost without hurting the rest of the car. This is why the best doors feel effortless and solid at the same time. The tolerances have to be tight enough to prevent buzz and resonance. The seals have to compress with authority, but not resistance. The latch has to finish with precision, not drama. What sounds simple is actually a controlled chain reaction. Then the psychological layer takes over. Buyers do not think, "This closure event has well-managed resonance." They think, "This car feels solid." Mechanical behavior gets translated into emotional judgment almost instantly, and brands know that. In the premium segment, closure sound is part of first-touch product design. The door close is one of the earliest physical signals a buyer gets in a showroom, on a test drive, or in a review video. If it sounds thin, the car loses status immediately. If it sounds dense and composed, the brain starts filling in the rest: refinement, craftsmanship, expense. That is the system line. Luxury brands tune door closing sound because the market has learned to hear it as proof of quality, even when the listener cannot explain why. So the payoff is this: a luxury car door does not just shut well. It is engineered to deliver a sound your brain interprets as precision, solidity, and value before you can verify any of it. That famous thunk is not fake, but it is absolutely designed. If you want more small things with big reasons, subscribe.